Humans have had a close relationship with animals for thousands of years. Scientists agree the domestic dog has been a trusted pet for around 15,000 years. And cats became part of the household from 10,000 years ago. And now it's estimated there are at least 600 million pet cats in the world. Exotic pets have also been kept for thousands of years. It's well documented that the Egyptians kept baboons as pets, and exotic animals kept in the home feature in many ancient texts. In modern times, the keeping of exotic pets has increased. A staggering statistic is that there are more tigers in the US alone than there are in the wild. Animal owners truly believe they are playing a role in preserving the numbers of exotic animals. But on the other side of the debate, there are those who believe it is a cruel practice to keep any animals in captivity. This series explores the issues from both sides, from those who know the dangers, but see the benefits, to others who condemn the keeping of exotic pets. Their stories follow. From the outside, it looks like an average family home, but this home has some unusual residents.
These are our two baby sloths. They're zoo animals, and they're going to go into exhibits in the zoo. But chances are, since my wife raised them, they're probably going to have to come home every night now because they're a little more than just a zoo animal.
In 1994, Charlie Samut bought 51 acres of land in Salinas, California. It started as a small exotic animal rental business, supplying animals for film and television, with part of the property dedicated to an elephant sanctuary. It grew into Monterey Zoo, which is now home to more than 100 exotic zoo animals. Or maybe Charlie and his wife, Lisa, just have a lot of peculiar pets.
We treat them, I guess, by definition, like pets. It's tough to say, I don't think people should have them as pets, because we spend 24 hours a day with them. Because we're a zoo, we're able to do that. If we had to go to work every day and spend what little time we had left with them, I don't know that they could get the care they need to stay healthy. And they're so fragile. They can't walk on the ground. They have to hold you. They've got a cute little seal-like face, and you put all that together and people just adore them. They're needy. Although they're a little more aggressive than some might think.
While the sloths are young, Charlie's schedule revolves completely around their care.
So, what's funny is, your life revolves around them. If we're out somewhere, we have to get home because Bugsy and Belle have to get their exercise. So Lisa lets them runs around the house at night. And then we have to make their food, and it has to be cut a certain way. Oh, baby. I know. Now, how do you do this and convince somebody that it doesn't make a good pet? I get it. But I mean, yeah, look at that face. He's real bitey. Sometimes he just gets in these moods, and Lisa will take him into the dining room. They like, the bottom of our dining room chairs is their jungle gym. They chase each other all over. And we'll go walking by, and they'll just come crawling across the floor, lunging at us. It's like, I think they're playing war. But yeah, when he's in a bad mood, he can be very bitey.
Monterey Zoo is not an accredited zoo, and that's what allows them to treat their animals more like pets than zoo exhibits.
We've chosen not to be accredited by the larger institutions, the larger clubs, if you will, because some of the rules they have prohibit us from giving the elephants the quality of life they need. I think we treat them like pets, but I think we treat the elephants like pets too, and I can't bring them home. Now, my home is on the zoo property. Is that what makes the difference? I don't know. Some of my staff don't have homes on the zoo property, and I let them take some things home. Are they pets? How do you define it? They come right back to the zoo and they have a purpose at the zoo, but we try to treat them all like pets.
And the sloths aren't Charlie's most unusual zoo exhibit pets. Wife Lisa has forged a bond with a badger.
It was raised here in the house with us. Had its personality and its temperament afforded it to do so, it would still be in the house with us. We love it to death. Unfortunately, it started plucking the tiles off the kitchen floor, so it was time to go to the zoo. But that was a decision it made. It just ended up that way. But we still go down there and put a leash on him and take him for his walk every day, like you would a pet.
Given that Charlie's career working with animals started with his pet lion, Joseph, it's not surprising that Charlie blurs the line between zoo animals and pets.
I had an African lion that was just beyond the scope of reason. He was so safe, so patient, so unusual. My children could ride on his back. He did things I wouldn't think of doing today. I can't imagine what I was thinking back then. But he could come home with me and sleep on the dining room floor. I mean, he was very, very special. A 1 in a million.
It was only because of Joseph's extraordinary nature and willingness to perform that Charlie entered the entertainment industry and later started a zoo.
He started this with me. So, I mean, was he a pet? It was much more of a relationship than some lion in a zoo with a keeper. I mean, we went to Africa together, we went to Germany together, we went to Mexico together, we've been in every state in the United States. But technically, we were a business. We were in the animal training and animal rental business for entertainment. Now, again, because I was in that business, I was with him the entire time, and so it created that kind of animal. So I will argue that if you're keeping them as a pet, but your business, your industry isn't something that affords you the time to spend with them, there is no way to keep it safe. You have to stay with them, you have to be with them, you have to have a team of people that are helping you do it. It has to be a professional situation. But that's not to say there's not pet owners that don't work somewhere else. They don't work commercially, but they're with their animals 24/7, that's what they do. They have the ability to do so, and therefore end up with good animals. Most of the professionals in this business will tell you that some of the best animals they've ever gotten were pets that were confiscated from people because they got so much time and so much interaction that they were just wonderful animals. We have our regular pets, if you will, okay? Because I do tell people it's nice to come home and sit down on the couch with something that you know probably won't eat you. I know. This chicken was brought into a Los Angeles veterinarian to be euthanized because when it was born, its beak was like this. And the veterinary facility, the owner of the facility is a very good friend of mine, and she pointed out that day when I was visiting that if this chicken were a lion or a tiger, we wouldn't think twice about doing surgeries and fixing it. But because it was a chicken, it's here to be euthanized. So long story short is she told me that she would fix the beak if I would adopt it for the zoo afterwards. And so 3 surgeries later with pins and bone marrow transplants, and we fixed the chicken. And that's about as good as we got it, but it can eat now. Before it had to have a stomach tube, and it can drink. So this is, again, you know, we try to tell people, there are unique pets that aren't necessarily lions and tigers. This happens to be a chicken.
The chicken had the Monterey Zoo board divided.
It came with controversy. You know, there's a lot of people on our board that said people don't come to zoos and pay to see chickens. You know, and our argument was, that's not what it's about. Are we doing what we do because of what people want, or are we doing what we do because of what animals need?
Never met who have
Charlie
pet
continues to
outline.
blur the line
Their
between pet
relationship
and zoo animal. Even the apex predators get treated like part of the family.
You guys okay?
Yeah.
Put the line up and lock us up.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Once again, we're struck by the rapport Charlie has with even the most dangerous animals. These bears may be young, but their claws and teeth could easily kill. Yet with Charlie, the experience feels completely safe. Over the years, Charlie has also worked with many big cats. And they all require a different approach. He credits leopards as being among the most dangerous.
Problem with leopards is that you walk in with them and you're in trouble and you didn't know it. A lion or a tiger, they'll be on top of whatever they're possessive of, so you know it. It's a very explosive brain. It's a very different brain. Lions then have your social structure to deal with, so they've learned to fight each other. Many companies won't touch lions. You can have the best lion cub in the world and he turns 5, 6 years old and he challenges you for that position in the pride, and it's all gone. I'd say tigers are about the easiest, believe it or not. Unfortunately, their teeth are the longest, so the bites are bad. But the way their brains work, their social structures, they're solitary. That's why in circuses you see more tigers in the ring than anything.
Although the entertainment business enabled Charlie to be closer to wild animals than most people will ever get the chance to be, there are some things he doesn't miss about working with animal entertainers, like wrestling lions.
That I'll never do again with a lion. Because that goes from play to sport one day. And when it goes to sport, okay, you have an animal you've never met before on top of you. And it's a bad, bad day. So we were prepping for a movie once, for one of Costner's movies, and it was an attack scene. And I did days of this lion coming up on top of me. And one day it turned to sport and I didn't see it. And he hunkered down on me and he bit me. He grabbed me right here. I ended up with 2 broken ribs and a punctured lung. 2 people came at him with a CO2. He jumped on one, bit a hole through the CO2, a steel canister. And before I could get up and get away, he was on top of me again and he bit me again. So she had to go get a tractor and drive it over top of me to get the cat off of me. 20 minutes later, and we had him all in a fenced area. We were prepping, okay? Came back, his head seemed right again, opened the door, they got a leash on him and walked him to his cage. He was fine. They're just, they are what they are, and you know it going into it.
Even those who have had extraordinary relationships with exotic animals know there's always an element of danger.
I was with Ron Whitfield, a very prominent trainer here, and used to be a circus man, and he worked for Six Flags at the time. No, I was doing the TV series Born Free, and I needed 2 lions to simulate a lion fight in the movie. So of course what we look for is 2 male lions that were raised together that play. And we'll dub in the noises later and make it sound like it's a fight. Well, I went to see his 2 lions in his ring act, and he brought them into the ring together and they were bouncing around playing with each other. But the play turned to sport and they got in a fight. And when the time it was done and it was over and he separated them, I think quite frankly, he's the bravest man I'd ever seen in my life stay in that ring. I'd never seen anything like it. He did not leave that ring, and the noise, the cement was shaking. Oh, and I was standing outside the ring. You know, Ron, do you need any help? Nope, got it covered. Good. It was terrifying.
But despite the danger, Charlie is still inclined to treat even the zoo's most predatory animals as pets.
When I got him, when we started raising him, we did like everything else. Hey, stop it. We did like everything else, and we tried to raise him as a pet. You know, we wanted him to have as much relationship as he possibly could. And It just didn't work out. Hey, what are you doing? Well, it's a difficult species, and his hair grows backwards. You don't know if they're a male or a female unless you truly blood test them. Nothing makes sense. They run as fast backwards as they do forwards. Their legs are longer in the front than they are in the back. They're born with teeth. They're born with their eyes open. Nothing is right by animal standards. To keep one friendly is a challenge, but it doesn't mean we didn't give it a chance. What's wrong? Why are you so angry today? Why are you so angry?
In the hyena's case, even Charlie admits that this is one predator that doesn't make a good pet.
If you asked me how I feel if one of my neighbors were to come home one day and announce that they got a hyena as a pet, probably wouldn't be real fond of the idea. No two ways about it. I wouldn't want that next door.
Charlie even has animals a lot of us have never heard of.
This is a binturong, a bear cat. His name is Doc. Doc kind of has his own fan club. People who come get to play with him on one of our tours. They start Facebooking him. It's gotten ridiculous. He's just one of the coolest animals.
Are you dangerous? Are you dangerous? I know. You're so grumpy. You're so grumpy.
Yeah. For some reason, Doc has been really nice. Gets to visit with guests, he gets to play with them. Again, raised in the kitchen, you know, in a home, whether it was my home or sometimes he stayed in other people's homes, and they created this. So if you go to any zoo and you ask for the animal that smells like buttered popcorn, they're going to take you to a bear cat. And kisses. What?
At Charlie's zoo, even mountain lions, the largest cats in North America, become little more than house cats.
She started off in our kitchen before the chicken. With the big cats, as soon as they're able to jump up on the counters, they become part on the house.
When it comes to keeping exotic animals as pets, Charlie repeatedly recommends spending large amounts of time with the animals and the need to be a very dedicated pet owner. Training needs to start when the animals are young.
Problems with your lions and tigers are you kind of got to be here when they're babies, and you got to stick with them when they're babies. You got to pour a lot into them then if you're going to have any kind of relationship when they're adults. So there is no safe way to introduce an adult lion or a tiger to someone new without risking that challenge and a train crash as a result of it. So it's far more ideal to have them there when they're babies. Can it work out? Sure. Is it supposed to? Probably not, because there's really no reason why that tiger shouldn't challenge you for that position. You know, anytime you work with a wild or an exotic animal, you're asking it to surrender instinct. The question is, how much instinct is it fair to ask an animal to surrender? That's the question. So even when we were working with circuses, we would suggest to them that it's the relationship between the tiger and the trainer that people are most fascinated with. Is jumping through the fiery hoop really necessary anymore? Because if you're up in the crowd and you listen to the crowd, okay, it's when the trainer walks up and hugs that lion and disappears in his mane, you hear all the oohs and the ahs.
Entertaining moviegoers or zoo visitors, Charlie has no problem asking his animals to contribute to the running of the household.
I don't feel bad for anything I ask my animals to do, because I'm really not asking them to do anything I'm not doing also. You know, if they have to stand there and take a picture with somebody to help us make ends meet, so do I. And it pays for our home and our food, and that's how the whole thing works, and we all participate, animals included. And I realize there are activists who would argue otherwise. The animals don't have a choice. And I would argue, not sure I do. And you do, you have to sleep at night. So how much instinct is it fair to ask them to surrender? Maybe as I get older, I'm surrendering more and more, you know? But when you have human kids, you find yourself doing that too.
Once the zoo is closed for the day and all the visitors have gone, the staff begin the nighttime routine. For Charlie, that means quality time with the exhibits.
Right now, everything goes to bed, and I usually interrupt it along the way and play with it, and the staff hates it because half of them want to go home, but it's too bad.
And once you've raised chickens, sloths, and badgers in your kitchen and realized your dream of opening a zoo, forming close bonds with all sorts of weird and wild animals, what do you do next?
It's kind of a retirement for me. It's open the gate in the morning, close the gate at night, and know that the animals got what I promised. You know, this was all about a promise to Joseph. Unfortunately, he didn't live long enough to see it, but we did promise him that day that we would finish it. That's all this is, one big promise. And I actually now feel like it's gonna happen.
Hohenwald, Tennessee. Would you think that you would have elephants in Hohenwald, Tennessee? But you do.
In her role as Mary Ann on Gilligan's Island, Dawn Wells was America's sweetheart. Today, with dozens of film, television, and theater credits, she now also devotes herself to more philanthropic pursuits. A strong animal advocate, Dawn is an ambassador for the Elephant Sanctuary in Hohenwald, Tennessee.
My friend Lois Knight is one of the people on the board and started it, and she came to me and said, this is what we're doing. I'm curious and I love animals, so if there's an adventure that I haven't done, I'm trying. I mean, that's a pretty big adventure to try to find a place in Tennessee to put in elephants. But my friend in Nashville said, we're going to find a place where elephants can roam, that it isn't a zoo, you can't go and stand at the fence and give them peanuts. They're free, and you can observe them, but it isn't a zoo. It's a place for them to roam.
The Elephant Sanctuary covers some 2,700 acres and opened in 1995 to care for elephants retired from zoos and circuses. The sanctuary's Elicam allows viewers to watch the elephants via live stream without intruding into their habitat.
It'd be like you're peeking and seeing what's going on in a forest. It's beautiful green grass and beautiful trees, but you don't see them all together. They don't line up. You don't stand there and feed them peanuts. You're viewing their privacy, I think. And when I was in Africa, I found it very interesting. They say elephants remember everything. And we were riding some and going through, and there'd be a pile of bones. And the elephants would stop and touch every bone. They're relatives, I guess. They have that memory we don't quite understand. And they're so huge. And a gentle giant, I guess is what you would say.
Dawn may see these majestic beasts as gentle giants, but even at a well-run facility like the Elephant Sanctuary, accidents can happen, and these seemingly placid animals can be unpredictable. The sanctuary mourned a volunteer killed by an elephant there in 2006. While Dawn loves all animals, it's with elephants that she feels there's space for a special bond between human and animal.
Being in Africa and seeing them wander and roam by themselves, and they are such gentle giants. I know I was riding one, and the guide said to me, don't go up to him now. You're going to ride him for a while, but when we stop for lunch, then he will want to touch you. And the elephant with his trunk touched me all over and looked me in the eye. But there was a relationship, and you see the size of that animal. I don't know what emotions they feel, but I think all animals relate to either each other or people or something. I think they're a blessing to this universe.
Many of the elephants at the Elephant Sanctuary suffer long-term health and behavioral issues common to elephants that have spent their lives in captivity.
Elephants are intelligent and social animals, and they have physical and social needs that cannot be met in captivity. It's simple as that. How far do you go and say, okay, let's buy a zebra? No, let's buy an elephant. Let's buy a cocker spaniel. What is the need from humanity to have that? I love to communicate with animals. I do. But respect me, I can live in my house. Respect you, you can live in your jungle.
While Don's feelings on keeping elephants as pets are very clear-cut, the issue of whether or not wild animals should be kept in zoos for education purposes has her torn.
I don't think they should be pets. I think they should be left where they are, where they belong, with each other, roam free. I mean, I've climbed the mountains in Rwanda. I've been as close as I am to you with the gorillas. I've watched the mountain gorillas bounce their babies on their knees and rock the babies and burp the babies just like we do. And no fear, because there weren't hunters, and you're visiting their sanctuary in the middle of the mountains and don't want to disturb them. It's respect. I think it's respect for any wildlife. You can study it and you can read it, but to have that connection personally, that's rare. So do we put them in a zoo so we can say, I'm experiencing it? No. You're experiencing a little bit of it. You see them, taking the bugs out of the baby's hair and rocking them and all that, but they're still in a cage. It's a conundrum, it really is, because how else would we know? We all can't go sit in the Rwanda mountains and wait till they come by. And yet, they should be free. I don't have an answer.
She does, however, recognize the need for sanctuaries to care for exotic animals already in captivity.
It's a controversy, I think. I mean, I think they are being taken care of, and maybe they would be shot, or maybe they would be hunted, or maybe they would be starving where they came from. How they got there, I don't know. It's like if I have a dog, I'd like a backyard where he can roam. I don't want to have a dog sitting on a pillow in my house all the time. When I was doing Gilligan's Island, I had this pet sparrow that fell out of a tree, and I couldn't feed the little baby, and I'd bring it on the set in a shoebox, and all the crew would come in with little tweezers and little bugs, and they'd feed him a little sparrow all day long, and at one point we let it go. But we nursed it back to health, so to speak. So I think human beings can be an advantage to an animal. We have them in captivity and you see what they're doing. You're aware of their needs. But do you take them out of the jungle to do that? Or are they out of the jungle already? I think Hohenwald, they have plenty of space to roam. But how many places can you have to do that?
The elephant sanctuary is currently home to 11 elephants.
Just give them the place to roam and the lack of human contact, I think, and where they should be with each other. I mean, when a new one comes in, they all welcome it. When they've lost one, they all mourn. You're really able to communicate the feelings that they're feeling. And when you're in the middle of the jungle in Africa, you don't know that's going on. You don't see that. They take care of them like they're a pet, but they're not a pet. They're cared for, and they're respected.
Elephants at the elephant sanctuary enjoy large, natural habitat enclosures, the companionship of a herd, and the benefits of using modern technology to learn about how best to care for them. To Dawn, this seems like the perfect solution, educating people about elephants and at the same time allowing them the freedom to roam.
I guess with the new modern way of doing things, the camera is on the elephant itself. And you are seeing what the elephant is seeing without being there and bothering them at all, and you're studying that animal and that animal's habitat and how they behave. That's new because of our technology. That's the way to do it, wouldn't you think?
They're relatively small, relatively docile, and yet they're one of the most feared creatures on the planet. In many households, Alex Barlow's unusual pets would receive some pretty rough treatment.
I often get people saying, like, if your spider come near me, I'll do this and I'll do that, And I like to wonder what if I said that about their cat or their dog, how would they respond, People often question my mental capability just for owning spiders and whatnot.
Alex has been collecting and selling a variety of invertebrates for about 18 months. His collection would cause as many as 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men to be crippled by fear.
Some people would be like, oh, and like freak out. Others would just, their fascination would be triggered and they'd walk up and ask about them, Yeah, I guess I'm one of the people that ask about them. How you feeling today, baby girl? Are you all mad?
At Ken Foos's Exotic Pets in Las Vegas, Gaz is also a fan of tarantulas as pets.
they're just such cool animals, you know. It's just you know, I've always found them fascinating. From the tiniest of little like common house spiders, you know, they're just fascinating, you know, and they keep pest control down, you know, they eat all the little bugs and stuff like that, but they're just fascinating. I mean, look how beautiful that is. I mean, you know, check out all that reds and that, you know, it's just beautiful. They're just fascinating animals.
Everybody knows that they're not like dogs or cats. They don't need affection or any love or communication at all. I think that's what I like about them. They're like nothing else in the world. I guess they're ornamental, primarily. Besides that, though, there is a bit of an edge factor of, you know, do you want to see my tarantulas? Everybody's like, oh, yeah, you know. It makes for a good story. It actually started by watching some dumb YouTube videos and just picking up some of my own tarantulas. I just figured out that there was so many people doing it over east that the animals over there have become so common. And there's nobody collecting over in the West, so I thought there might be a market for it, so I got more into it, you know? I would say they're pets primarily, yeah. I have my personal collection that I'll never ever sell, and ones that I'll you know, share around.
Australia has very strict laws regarding the keeping of exotic animals, and many people aren't aware that native tarantulas can be kept as pets.
I think a lot of people over here don't know that they actually are even native to Australia or even able to be kept. One of the most common questions I get is, you know, like, do we need a license to own these? I even get, have they had their immunity jabs and stuff like this? But no, they don't need that.
Australia has a reputation for its dangerous spiders, but surprisingly, tarantulas aren't among them. While their bite may be painful, it's very rarely fatal.
I got bitten by my rose hare, and like I said, it was like, and I was probably around about 13, 14 years old, and it got me, and it was very shocking. You know, I was kind of like frozen with shock. So a lot of people's reaction is to, whoa, flinch, you know, and you can drop the tarantula, you can kill the tarantula that way. But I was just kind of like frozen in shock being 13, 14 years old and getting bitten by a tarantula the first time. So I didn't really feel the pain or the sting till about maybe 10 minutes after. And then it, you know, it started stinging. I had, you know, slight swelling where it had bitten me. But after about 20, 30 minutes, it went away. So that's how I knew I wasn't allergic to those kind of things. You know, which is probably a good thing, because, you know, people get stung by bees and they have allergic reactions. It's you know, it can be deadly.
There is a chance for anaphylaxis with any kind of bite, with any kind of venom. There's been 0 recorded deaths from tarantulas in throughout history. So you could even argue that snails or anything is more dangerous.
There are 2 types of tarantula: Old World species from the Eastern Hemisphere and New World species from the Western Hemisphere.
In Australia, all we get is Old World species, and they're 160 million years old predators. They operate completely off instinct, and they haven't been watered down through breeding to be, you know, prettier or slower, less venomous and stuff like that. But the New Worlds, they've been, the colour's been brought out in them, and the placid behaviour and whatnot. The New Worlds are much more prone to being handled. In fact, most tarantulas will tell you not to handle an Old World at all. Yeah, they're very quick, very fast, unpredictable.
Yeah.
Tarantulas in the wild are nighttime hunters, pouncing on insects, beetles, and grasshoppers. The Goliath bird-eating tarantula species of South America will eat larger prey, such as lizards, snakes, small birds, and mice.
For a mouse, like, you know, its venom's powerful. But like I said, for someone like us, like a healthy adult, you know, that's not allergic to those kind of things, it's, like I said, it's just like a bee sting. But for something that small, it's quite powerful. And plus, their fangs are pretty big, you know, so that, you know, it can cause mechanical damage as well, you know. If it gets a certain animal in the right place, you know, it's going into its heart, it's going into its lungs, it's going to kill it a lot quicker, you know. So I think most of the time, you know, the damage is caused by the, you know, the size of the fangs. You know, they bite into a mouse with those size of the fangs, and, you know, it's like getting stabbed in the heart or something like that, you know. It's going to cause that mechanical damage. So the venom's not really going to kill it, but the mechanical damage is going to kill it. All the hairs that cover their body, they can feel like the slightest vibrations of like prey, you know. They can tell exactly what kind of prey it is as well by the way it moves on the ground, and, you know, they feel the different vibrations through sensitive hairs on their legs. Very strong, very powerful. And as like I said, the first time I got bit by a tarantula, I couldn't believe how strong it was, you know. The way they can grip you with their legs and pull you in, I was just like, wow, you know. And that was just a rose hair. You know, a rosehair's a pretty small tarantula compared to these, so these guys are really powerful.
Alex's pet powerhouses are fed on cockroaches and mealworms that he breeds himself.
For spiderlings, I feed every 3 days, and for adults, I feed once a week or so. But adults can go 18 months without eating, so you can go away on holiday and still come back and be fine, you know? Yeah, mostly they look after themselves and thrive on darkness and loneliness.
Although adept hunters in the wild, Alex says that tarantulas are not aggressive creatures.
Aggressive is actually the wrong word for it. Defensive would be the word for it. But this one right here, that's a Selenotypus wallace. She's a more calm one, but the Selenophilus cotsman, which I've got in the garage there, that's arguably the most defensive tarantula in the world, actually.
Along with his tarantulas, Alex keeps other arachnids known for their fierce and painful defense.
It depends on the species, I would say. I've got the Urodacus elongatus over here, and that is, I'd say, one of the most calm species in the world, actually. But something like the Urodacus yashunkai, I wouldn't even go near. She did give me a clip yesterday, see that? That's a threat pose. She's getting a bit stressed, I'm gonna put her away.
So she gets too stressed while rabbit.
Well, when she puts the babies out, she'll eat them. Go on. Go that way. In your hole. Good girl.
Scorpions are also nocturnal hunters, and they do something else in the dark that is very unique. All species glow under ultraviolet light. It might seem difficult to know which end of the scorpion to avoid. Pincers that are used to crush their prey, or the sting in the tail that delivers toxic venom.
Well, some of them can be quite bad. Most of the ones that I own, the Urodacus scorpions, they're not too bad, but they're only about as dangerous as a bee, just like a tarantula. But I know of one called the Lichas bachari, which is native to all of Australia. That will give me a fair bit of pain, put me in hospital for a few days. Small pincers means a strong venom, and strong pincers means a weak venom.
Like the tarantulas, these arachnids don't return affection the way the more traditional pets do. But Alex has seen that they are not unintelligent critters.
I think all animals, no matter how small the brain and instinctual they are, they can get used to certain behaviors. Like if I feed one scorpion only mealworms and then I go to a cockroach, then they'll recognize that it's a different food. And oh, we got Maggie here as well. That's my other animal. I'm pretty sure she's got a family somewhere nearby. She comes and gets some worms for herself, goes and gives them to the babies, and then comes back for her own meal, you know? She usually comes back twice. Good girl. I do that whistle every time so she gets to know part of my voice, you know? She eats too many of these. I end up having to buy more, you know? All right, go on, get out. Need to learn how to hunt again.
The Australian magpie is known for its intelligence and for its habit of fiercely defending its nest by swooping at unsuspecting passers-by.
No, she's never swooped me. I don't think I've seen her in mating season, though. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. I do worry about this guy on my shoulder with her around there.
The guy on Alex's shoulder isn't a predator, but it's definitely an unorthodox creature to keep for companionship. Its extraordinary body is designed to look like the leaves it feeds on. If threatened, it will arch its tail above its body towards the intruder, much like the scorpion.
This is a spiny leaf insect. It's one of the stick insect family. And these guys are native to, I think this one's from northern Queensland, but they might be all over Australia. They're not my expertise, these guys. But what's interesting about them is this is a female right now. You can see that by the smaller wings. Males have bigger wings. And basically, the female will always give birth throughout her life, but she'll only give birth to females if she doesn't mate with a male. And if she mates with a male, then it'll be 50% female, 50% male. Interesting, huh?
The spiny leaf insect is obviously not Alex's most dangerous predator, but neither is Maggie, the tarantulas, or the scorpions. The giant centipede is found across Australia, and its venom is toxic to both insects and mammals. These multi-legged creepers can reach up to 16 centimeters long and have even been known to feed on small snakes.
I've been bitten by a centipede, but not by an adult. It was only a peedling. and it couldn't get through the skin. It was that small. I was trying to dig around for it under the soil, so it was a bit irresponsible of me. He must have just like felt something and then just had a bit of a tag. It was like a pinch.
Alex got away lightly. The bite from the giant centipede causes severe pain that can last several days.
I would say that aggressive is again the wrong word for it. Defensive is the proper word, but if I was going to use it for anything, it would be centipedes. Centipedes, if they bite you, they'll hurt for a much longer time than a tarantula or a scorpion. I've kept tarantulas and scorpions for 18 months, but centipedes I don't think I'll ever get used to. They're just so unpredictable and bleh. They can use those pincers on their back and grab my finger and then try and like walk back up themselves and onto my finger. This is what I mean by unpredictable, and just they freak me out a little bit.
Despite its name, the giant centipede has only 21 or 23 pairs of legs. The first pair of legs behind its head are modified claws which curve around the head and can deliver venom into its prey.
Go on, have a munch. Good lad.
This species is common across Australia, and while out searching for a different species, he discovered a new color form of this one, endemic to Western Australia.
It's native to all of Australia, but this particular one had blue and green legs, so we call it the Perth form locale. Like the form is like the color form, and the locale is usually like the location where it was collected from, and that's what we use to identify them over here. For example, like Australian tarantulas, they're mainly recognized as Selenocosmia crassipes by science, but anything beyond that is just a trade name. So for example, Selenotypus wallace, this one here, that's just a trade name. It's just something to identify where it's from, the color form. We were looking for Cerasiphonias granulosus, and we just found so many of these this Cormocephalus arancipes around. We ended up collecting about 15 and then trying to sex them, but it's a bit hard, that one, because to sex a centipede, you have to either give it some carbon dioxide until it's unconscious, and then squeeze out the sexual organs to be able to see it, or you can drown them for north of half an hour to be able to see it. So I don't think I'll be mating them anytime soon.
Alex does breed some of his own tarantulas and scorpions. Others come from other licensed dealers. Regulations differ from state to state.
It's legal, but poaching is more common in my industry than I ever would have thought previously. There's people that go to people's property without permission from the owners, and there's people that don't have licenses to actually collect from the West. It's unfortunate how it all happens, but the people in the scene, from the activists to the licensed collectors to the breeders, it's a pretty tight-knit community. So it's pretty easy for us to track where the spiders go and where they come from, which ones are legal and whatnot.
Alex is licensed to collect some specimens from the wild. Those that come from other breeders arrive in a somewhat surprising way. Like all of us, Alex enjoys the rush of having a parcel arrive in the mail.
It's kind of got less exciting as time went on. This must be my like 500th tarantula or something like that, so it gets less exciting, of course. There's a roach in that one as well. There she goes.
However, the local mailman is not nearly as fond of Alex's deliveries.
He freaks out, and it always seems like he's in a rush to leave every time he comes over, you know?
Humans have had a close relationship with animals for thousands of years. Scientists agree the domestic dog has been a trusted pet for around 15,000 years. And cats became part of the household from 10,000 years ago. And now it's estimated there are at least 600 million pet cats in the world. Exotic pets have also been kept for thousands of years. It's well documented that the Egyptians kept baboons as pets, and exotic animals kept in the home feature in many ancient texts. In modern times, the keeping of exotic pets has increased. A staggering statistic is that there are more tigers in the US alone than there are in the wild. Animal owners truly believe they are playing a role in preserving the numbers of exotic animals. But on the other side of the debate, there are those who believe it is a cruel practice to keep any animals in captivity. This series explores the issues from both sides, from those who know the dangers, but see the benefits, to others who condemn the keeping of exotic pets. Their stories follow.
His mum actually has put me in hospital for 24 hours, where she bit me when I was feeding her and damaged a tendon. And if I release any pressure off him, he will know that, he'll feel it, and he will then react to that. Extremely strong, extremely strong. You can stress them out too much, yeah, but when he's that little, he's okay. Because they're not going to attack you just because you're there, but if you land on and get too close, it's like anything, you're in their space, they're going to let you know. But look at that, it's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, okay. I might put him back so he doesn't stress out too much.
Australia has a reputation as having some of the most dangerous animals in the world. Gane Doyle has been bitten by almost all of them.
I'm not pulling out the other olive though, because then we'd have a lot more blood shots.
At over 12 feet long, the olive python is Australia's second largest snake. And although it's not venomous, it regularly preys on rock wallabies and even small crocodiles, ambushing them from under the water.
These have got, of course, large teeth. There's over 100 teeth in the mouth on one of these. Very, very strong, extremely strong snake that can make you feel uncomfortable. This one here has wrapped around my neck once and made me feel quite uncomfortable. Now, one of the things that we do here so that the snake knows it's going to be picked up and not being fed is we use our hat. That's why we always wear hats. He now knows, because they are intelligent, he now knows he's not getting fed.
The danger is not from the snake's razor-sharp teeth.
It's the sheer strength. If they wrapped around your neck, it can cause you to black out without any problems. I can feel the strength around my throat at the moment. He wants to go back to his warmth. Extremely strong snake. This particular snake, I had him out at the other end of the shed, just doing a display, and he reached up using me as a perch, and I could feel myself blacking out because he put so much pressure on my neck, it was slowing the blood circulation off to my brain, and I started to feel a bit woozy. Where you going? I'm trying to shut the door back in. Cool.
Gane and his father run the family business, the WA Reptile Park in Perth, Western Australia. He's grown up living alongside Australia's apex predators, venomous snakes, crocodiles, and dingoes. Not all the animals here are deadly, but the majority can do some serious damage. There are some you could keep as pets at your own risk.
There are some pythons that have a few attitude problems, and want to bite or wrap around. You just got to be aware of all that. But, you know, as a pet, they're pretty easy to keep. Yeah, I mean, Lacey there, he's really easy to keep and he's quite friendly, but there's always that chance that something can go wrong. I like him.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What have we got here, Jack?
This is a lace monitor from the Eastern States. A lot of people in the Eastern States have these as pets. And this one here has bitten me. Got very sharp teeth, but that was only because I was feeding it. It missed the rats that I was feeding it that day and grabbed all 5 fingers on one hand. The claws and the teeth are extremely sharp. When this fella bit me, and again, it was only by accident, he did do a bit of slice and dice on my fingers, but there was he didn't cause me any problems to go to hospital or anything like that. Yeah, I may have needed stitches, but I stayed home. I don't like going to hospital too often. Oh, this one's pretty cool. When you actually feed this fella, we give him a scratch on the back. He arcs up the back like he enjoys it. Emotion, no. Personality, yes. This fella has his own little personality. And yeah, look at that. He's beautiful, isn't he?
Closely related to the Komodo dragon, Lacey may be a friendly monitor, but the tools he uses to prey on small mammals and birds in the wild leave their mark on his handlers too.
He's just using it and he's just hanging on, so the points go through. I mean, our skin's soft compared to them. So that's, yeah, you get that all the time. I never worry about any little scratches or anything like that. It's part of the job, you know, getting bitten or scratched or whatever, you know. It happens. It's not the nicest of feelings, you know, being bitten. Yeah, but yeah, with this type of job, it can happen if you you don't pay attention to what you're doing.
A small scratch or even a large bite from a monitor lizard or a crocodile may not bother Gain too much, but surely a tag from one of the world's deadliest snakes would slow him down.
Australia have 17 of the top 20, and this is one of them. And this is one of our local snakes for Western Australia, which is a dugite, which is a brown, but it's our local one around the Perth area. This one here got me in 2016. He wasn't in this cage, he was in another cage, and I was cleaning him out, and I had the words go through my head, turn on the light, and I didn't turn the light on. I hooked him, and he grabbed me. So I don't know which end I was trying to lift, and he actually bit 2 fingers. And envenomated me. It was about 25 minutes before I felt any effects, and then spent 30 odd hours in hospital getting one lot of antivenin, and my kidneys stopped working. So I guess now that we've got a special relationship, me and him, he's had a piece of me and I've had a piece of him. It's just extremely nice snake.
Not only does Gain still consider the snake that could have killed him to be an extremely nice snake, he takes full responsibility for the incident. He knows only too well how serious the consequences can be if you make a mistake with a deadly predator.
If you get too, a bit blasé or anything like that, and you take your brain out of gear, you can make a mistake. And every now and then you do that, and some can be fatal, or you can end up being crook. I mean, I've made 2 mistakes with 2 venomous snakes in 40 odd years, and it's knocked us around and all the rest of it. But my fault, not the snake's fault, because I was choosing to do something that I shouldn't have done.
While it's certainly unconventional, Gain forms rewarding bonds with animals that many would never consider having as pets.
Well, I used to have my first tiger snake. When he passed away, I was quite upset, because I used to go to do displays and talk to these kids and say, instead of on theory, I now had practical experience of what a snake bite felt like. This was the one that did it. And when he passed away, I was quite upset, because we had that special relationship, that bond of, that was my first bite. Again, that was my fault, but it was still, okay, I'm now one of the people that had been bitten by a venomous snake and survived.
Well, this one's bitten you as well.
This one has bitten me as well.
But he's still a nice snake.
It's still a nice snake, yeah.
And in a very Captain Hook moment, we meet the mother of the crocodile we saw earlier, the one that sent Gain to the hospital and could have easily taken his hand.
She bit me when I was doing a feeding display in here with 45 kids. And it was the first chicken of the day, and I normally feed around 12 o'clock, but I decided to do it later. And when I put my hand over with the tongs, because we use tongs for these little fellas, had a chicken in the end of the tong, it saw the hand and just grabbed hold of the hand. I went through all the scenarios of what should I do to get it off. And I thought if I pulled my arm up and put it on the balcony, that see if she would release, but then I realised with those teeth that they slice, she would have done more damage. So I just hung there and just waited. Our eyes met, so we had a moment for a little bit, and then eventually she let go and slipped straight back into the water. I swapped hands and continued on feeding them. It severed 80% of one of my tendons and went through the knuckle. So it wasn't too bad. If it had rolled or twisted, it could have severed the tendons or severed a few more, but I was all okay. I didn't lose any fingers or any movement. Yeah, just out of action.
But does this croc remember his human prey like the crocodile nemesis remembered Captain Hook in Peter Pan?
I think she does. I mean, she's had a taste of me, this one. She knows what I taste like, so yeah, she likes me. Young girl. That's my girl.
Gain's experience working with crocs means, despite their previous encounter, he's not concerned about getting too close this time.
She stays there, 'cause I'm not moving any further to her. She's already let me know that she doesn't want me any closer by a bit of a breathing and huffing at me. I feel quite safe here. She's not going to move any further from where she is. And again, it's the colder weather, and if she was warm, she'd be straight into the pond if I was getting too close. They're not going to try and attack. I've been closer to one and actually fed one closer. And it did get me when it jumped up to when feeding. It jumped up, missed it, and just caught me on the hand. And I was right next to it feeding it. Yep, that's the boy and the girl. They're the dingoes. Go and see them.
Australia's wild dogs, dingoes, are sometimes kept as pets, but most owners will tell you that they can never be completely domesticated.
This is Blondie, and she's a good girl. When we first got Blondie, she broke out of her pen. She found a very small hole, about 6 foot off the ground, and climbed out. But she's so blonde, she showed me where the hole was so I could fix it. Didn't you, girl? Hey? Hey? How about we go and see Max? Hey? Are they allowed to come in, Max? Come on. Hey? He was brought to us to the park because their situation changed. We normally don't take them on if they're over 18 months old because their personalities are really set. But Max was really good. He bonded to us very easily, so I decided to take him on. I don't 100% trust him, but yeah, I can pick when he's not right. Come on. Hey. The only thing with dingoes, you can't train them. They don't come when you call, but they're highly intelligent.
The dingoes are as close to pets as any of the animals here at the WA Reptile Park, but Gain remains alert when around them.
They still have that killer instinct. They'll still knock off other animals. Yeah, people do have them as pets, but they just got to be aware that they're totally different. If you really bring them up right, they are extremely nice pets. But you just got to treat them nicely, because they don't ever forget.
Having been strangled by a python and bitten by crocodiles, lizards, and deadly venomous snakes, there's still one animal here that Gain won't get close to.
I never trust a wombat. Never turn your back on a wombat. They are dangerous. It's automatic, get out. Especially the males, breeding season, they change and they will attack. And they jump up, and it's pretty dangerous for a bloke because they can jump up about 1 metre high, and if you're facing a wombat and it jumps up 1 metre high and grabs what you don't want it to grab, it's gonna hurt. Has happened in the eastern states. Bloke had a lot of microsurgery, but yeah, no. I'll go and play with a croc any day.
You know, some people don't want to live next to a 400-pound pot-bellied pig. So, in fairness, when you do live in a kind of a built-up city, you know, choose the right pet.
Riverside County Animal Services are an animal shelter organization and vet clinic servicing one of the largest counties in California.
We cover everything from the city of Riverside, which is a large metropolitan area, all the way out to areas out in the Coachella Valley, which are just undeveloped open areas of natural desert. So we get a little bit of everything.
Each year, they respond to thousands of calls from the public, picking up stray dogs, cats, and the occasional, more unusual lost pet.
Riverside County Animal Services, we are a sheltering service to all the stray animals that come in. And of course, we handle a lot of field service work, and that's our officers out in the field retrieving mostly stray dogs and stray cats, and the occasional stray crazy thing, you know, whether it be the occasional monkey, alligator, Burmese python, or somebody keeping a deer as a pet.
We got a call one afternoon that a woman, her 2 dogs, had cornered an alligator in her backyard. My dispatcher gets on the radio, dispatches it to me, and I kind of made a smart aleck remark of, sure, I'll go pick up the iguana, thinking that they just saw an iguana and thought it was an alligator. I rolled up to the house, got out of my truck, see 2 dogs barking at something in the corner, walk over, tell the woman to grab her dogs, and sure enough, there's an alligator in her backyard.
It's interesting because we get a lot of different snakes that come from like where they come into people's yards, but we have interesting calls too where someone will call for a snake like this. I had a snake just like this, Southern Pacific, that a person called us that they found this snake in their yard and they were in the middle of the city of Riverside and they conveniently had it contained in a terrarium. And so when I GPS'd the address to try to re-release the snake, I was just thinking to myself, there's no way that this snake ended up in the middle of downtown Riverside surrounded by blocks and blocks and blocks of residential housing. So they obviously went on a trip to the mountains, who knows what, took the snake out of the wild again, and then probably the wife or something was like, the heck no, you're not keeping that snake. And so they called, you know, animal control and said, oh, I found it in my yard, you know. But stuff like that happens fairly frequently. You know what? Most of the time it's a legitimate call where you can see, you know, their house is butted up against, you know, natural landscape, and it's like, yeah, if you're going to build your home on their habitat, they're going to come into your yard. But occasionally we get these strange calls.
I've personally got one call where someone had a rattlesnake that they had caught and taken it home, stuck it in a china cabinet, put duct tape across the door of the china cabinet and stuck a brick in front of it and had it in there for a week. And then they quickly realized that they couldn't safely open the door to feed it and didn't know how to care for it. So they ended up calling for help, and I ended up having to go in and remove the rattlesnake out of a china cabinet. So that was a pretty poorly thought out plan.
And it's often poor planning and lack of knowledge that puts exotic pet owners and their neighbors in danger.
The animal, when it ends up doing something really bad, the person always says, but he was always so calm and never showed any signs of aggression. But it just takes one time, right, for that person to suffer serious injuries and in some cases death. So the onus is really on that person that owns the exotic, legally if they have it permitted, to protect their fellow neighbors.
In 2009, a 330-pound pet tiger escaped from her enclosure and was discovered in the backyard of a very surprised 79-year-old woman in Ingram, Texas. A 275-pound pet cougar escaped from his cage in a Florida backyard menagerie and killed a neighbor's dog in 2012. And in 2017, a classroom of third graders were surprised to find a 4-foot-long boa constrictor inside their classroom. Officers believe the snake may have been an escaped pet from a nearby house.
Well, you know, when people are having a pet that's a dangerous, you know, they know how to handle it, but the neighbor doesn't, or the little kid next door has no clue on, you know, that you have a dangerous exotic pet. That's where you as the pet owner need to make sure, just like, you know, in the dog world, if you have a large dog, you want to be responsible, make sure it doesn't get out. And same thing, if you have a dangerous exotic animal, and it doesn't mean it has to be a big animal. A monkey, for example, can bite people, which we had happen in one of our cities that we had to respond to. A monkey bit a person at a pizza place because the person thought it would be fun to have a monkey on their shoulder at a pizza place. And so you gotta draw the line sometimes with having a cool pet that's cool for you to have, but making sure your community members are protected and safe. And that would be our message to those folks, is make sure that exotic is not gonna harm anyone.
One of the most common exotic animal escape artists is the snake, and the Riverside team are often called to retrieve venomous reptiles from suburban areas.
So both of these guys are from the local area that were brought in by our animal control officers, and I keep them purely for the purpose of using them for training, for rattlesnake safety and handling. So this one is a western diamondback rattlesnake, and how we came across this one was that there was a woman in Palm Desert who had to be put into a care facility, and when they went in to get her out of the house, she had this snake in an aquarium in her house, and it was a little 10-gallon aquarium. The snake was a really tiny little baby, probably just born that year. And so it was a little 10-gallon aquarium with a fish toy in it, like you would see in a fish aquarium, like a sunken ship toy. So she was trying to keep it as a pet. And so because we don't know the exact location of where it came from, you can't just take it and relocate it and throw it back outside. So for us, the only options are either, you know, you find a home for it with a research facility, or maybe an educational institution. Otherwise, it has to be euthanized, unless we know of the natural area where it came from and we could relocate it within its home range.
While Kim provides Riverside officers with venomous snake handling training, there's no way they can train for every possible animal encounter.
Burmese python is a common home pet, or at least in the state of California it is. Another county officer, she got a call in the middle of the night that a 30-foot snake was going through this person's front yard. She shows up on scene, calls me in the middle of the night, wakes me up, and says, "Hey Dylan, I need some assistance. I have a 30-foot snake." So I thought she was just joking with me at first, and sometimes we joke with each other and give each other prank calls and stuff like that. But I made it down there, and sure enough, there was a large snake under these people's, I believe it was a eucalyptus bush that was going alongside the fence line. All I did was grab it with a catch pole, got that around its head. The snake obviously coiled up around the pole, and then we just carried it to the truck like a rotisserie rack. One person on one side, one person on the other side, and we put it in the truck like that. We'd let go of the loop, and it hung out in the truck for the way back.
You know, a lot of the training for some of these exotics kind of happens like that moment in time. You don't really respond to a domesticated deer call every day. When it comes to like a Burmese python, it's, you know, the officers, They're really good with their control stick, or the catch pole, as it's known. Some of these are just really kind of bizarre calls that they just have to use their instincts. Bear in mind, the officers are dealing with some of the most vicious dogs that you might see walking the street. Some of them are bully breed dogs. Some of them are very aggressive. And these officers don't scare easily. In fact, I think the Burmese python scared that one officer more so than a large pit bull coming at her. Those are just such weird, odd calls, and you don't really know how to handle the Burmese python, and you don't want to get choked to death. So those types of calls are sort of like, you learn as you go sometimes.
Every call out comes with a risk, and Riverside officers can just never be sure what they'll encounter when they arrive at a scene.
At the time of it, it's a little hectic and scary just because you don't know if it's fully domesticated. A lot of people, they have these quote-unquote wild animals for pets and never socialize them properly, so sometimes they will bite or do other things that aren't foreseen.
Much of what Riverside County Animal Services does also involves educating the public about choosing the right pet and then providing that pet with the appropriate care.
Those folks that like, for example, to have a Burmese python, sometimes they get them when they're young, and then they're not really fully educating themselves on just how large those snakes can get. And it's not the easiest pet to care for once it's an adult pet. I mean, they get 20 to 30, they get very long and very wide. And when you go out of town and you ask your buddy to, feed your pet, make sure the buddy knows how to close the tank of the Burmese python securely, because that's when you get into problems where, the next door neighbor finds out that you have a 20-foot Burmese python. Educating the general public on exotics is important because some people like to have interesting pets, and then when it comes to animals like a tegu lizard, quite an amazing critter, but they can get big too, and your neighbor may not want to see that tegu lizard knocking on their front door. So, it's really making sure that that exotic pet is going to stay in your property and not wander off, because that can really scare the heck out of somebody if they are finding out that you own that tegu lizard and they didn't know that.
Another one, I had a tegu running down Wood Road. Somebody called for a large lizard in the road, so I arrived on scene, and sure enough, there was, the body was probably only about 2 feet long, but the tail's about 3 feet long, and their tail is stronger than heck, so they can whip you and cut you open with that.
It's kind of like keeping some of the more aggressive dog breeds. If you've got a responsible owner that knows what they're doing, you can keep some of those safely. And then there's some things that you just shouldn't have. When we walk into a house and somebody's caught a rattlesnake from out in the desert and it's in an aquarium, it's a venomous snake. Nobody should be keeping those as pets. Boa constrictor, there are responsible people out there that can keep them as a pet, but it's not a pet for everybody. Most people probably don't have the skills, the ability, the finances, just the space to keep something that can potentially get as large as those are going to get.
We're in the business of promoting responsible pet ownership, whether you own a dog, a cat, or a rabbit, or a horse, a tortoise. We always want people to love that animal and make it part of your family. We don't really have any strong opinion one way or the other when it comes to exotic pets. We just don't like when somebody no longer is interested in being the pet owner of said exotic pet, and then they just release it into the wild and scaring their neighbors, or also shamefully allowing that animal to suffer because it could get hit by a car just like a dog or a cat, or it goes off into the wild and gets killed by other critters. But it's shameful when the pet loses its charm and then they think, oh, I'll just dump it in the riverbed, or I'll just release it. If you have an exotic pet, know how long that pet will be in your life. A tortoise, for example, can live 70, 80, 90, 100 years. So you might want to put the tortoise in your will and know that your son is going to be caring for the next 50 years of that tortoise's life. That's the only thing we'd like to share with people that are interested in exotic pets is know it's a part of your family. And when it loses its charm, don't forget, you're still the pet parent.
The officers at Riverside County Animal Services have dealt with everything from escaped emus to roaming reptiles. And when it comes to exotic animals, they've seen firsthand that too little knowledge can be a dangerous thing.
I think that, at least here in California, for the most part, with stuff that could kill a human being, I think that those who have them that do it legally are able, okay, but they have to reach such a bar. It's such a high bar for them to get to those proper permits and stuff. I'm kind of okay with those people. It's the backyard person who doesn't know what they're doing and doesn't have that training and hasn't gone through all the permitting process and the inspection process to try and keep a lion or a tiger or, something else along those lines that it's a recipe for disaster.
You can go to any zoo, any private place in the United States or around the world, and as soon as there's a fence, you don't have to treat them like a tiger. They're not predators anymore. They're just beautiful, interesting, and here for our enjoyment.
From the fashionable Victorian menagerie to the animal stunts we see in modern movies, exotic animals have long performed for our enjoyment and entertainment. But what happens to the animals when they can no longer perform? Many end up at sanctuaries like the Performing Animal Welfare Society, a 2,300-acre natural habitat wildlife sanctuary located near San Andreas, California. This unique facility is currently home to 9 elephants, 4 lions, 1 black leopard, 7 bears, 22 tigers, and co-founder and president Ed Stewart.
This is Kim, and she's in there with Roy and Claire. She's 15 years old, came out of a roadside zoo in New Hampshire, and was scheduled to go to the pet industry. Somebody intercepted her and brought her to us when they were just cubs. Hi. I know. You're a wonderful girl. Yeah, you're good.
PAWS provides homes for retired or mistreated animal entertainers and investigates reports of abused performing and exotic animals. Unsurprisingly, Ed has strong feelings about exotic animal ownership of any kind.
I know that there are some good facilities and some are good, some are bad, but the ultimate goal for all of these places is a little murky to me. Is it to return animals to the wild? Is it to teach people about animals? I think all of it is ineffective. In the history of the world, nobody's taken a captive tiger and put it into the wild. And with the shrinking habitat, it's never going to happen. So reintroduction is a pipe dream. It's not going to happen.
And while some may argue that captivity is a valid way of preserving a species or educating the public about conservation, others, like Ed, believe that captivity changes an animal to the extent that it is no longer anything like its ancestors.
Our mission is to give the animals that we take the best life we can give them, knowing that we can't give them a normal life. We can't give her a natural life. She's 15 years old and she has never had to catch her dinner, never had to hunt for her food. We have provided everything. You put an animal in an enclosure, whether it's a big enclosure or a small enclosure, you have totally changed their life. She's an apex predator. She would hunt almost constantly looking for enough food. She would be raising babies. She would have an incredible responsibility in the wild, and she would rely only on herself. Their natural history is so ingrained in them to perform their duties, and you take all that away in captivity. As soon as you put a fence up, you create disrespect for that animal.
It's something of a contradiction for Ed. On one hand, he's against keeping wild animals in captivity. On the other, he keeps captive animals.
We're honestly looking at these animals every day, We really want to do the best we can for them, but the best thing you can do for them is not promote it in captivity, because they're just not designed to live captive. And it's a black and white issue. So we don't look at her or him like a tiger. We look at him as an individual. They're so far removed from a real tiger in the wild. We know we have to do absolutely the best we can for them and give them the nicest place we can to live and the best vet care. But if we had a breeding pair, I would be heart sick if I was the one responsible for creating a litter of baby tigers that would have to live their whole life in a cage. You know, it's just basic freedom for a tiger to be wild.
PAW's Director of Veterinary Services, Dr. Jackie Guy, has the job of ensuring that all the animals are kept healthy. Many of the problems she sees are a direct result of captivity.
Animals in captivity, especially wild animals in captivity, can develop all sorts of problems that are unique to captivity that aren't found in wild populations. So as a captive wildlife veterinarian, I would say probably 95% of the problems that I'm seeing in my patients are related to captivity in one way or another. An example of that is, this is a tiger. These are radiographs or x-rays of a tiger's spine he's an adult. He's not an old man by any means, but he's a mature adult. And he's got significant arthritis that, you know, would not be seen in a wild tiger. This is an early onset of really severe arthritis.
And the problems Dr. Jackie sees associated with captivity are not just physical health issues.
Confinement is very hard on animals, regardless of the size of the cage. Being confined brings with it all sorts of challenges for especially formerly wild animals or wild animals. Wild animals are not domesticated. In other words, they're not used to being held captive. And so there are instincts that they have that are they're not able to express, and that leads to frustration. It leads to a lot of behavioral problems, a lot of anxiety and stress, which sometimes they'll end up pacing or tossing their heads or doing various repetitive behaviors. And we've all seen that. We've all seen a pacing bear in a cage or a tiger in a cage. That's abnormal. They don't do that in the wild. Also, a really sad thing is when an exotic animal begins to self-mutilate or damage itself, pull its hair out or pull its feathers out. And that's an unfortunate consequence of stress, of being in captivity.
Winston, one of the sanctuary's current bear residents, has only recently stopped displaying those telltale signs of captive boredom.
Captivity, it's a challenge. When you look at California mountains, that's where they should live. The Smoky Mountains, Florida, they're all over the United States. And when they're in captivity, a lot of times, they're one of the worst pacers, one of the worst at rocking their heads. They just don't have anything to do.
As former pets or performers, the animals here are accustomed to being around humans. And many involved in the exotic animal ownership debate believe that they should continue to enjoy human companionship.
Hey, girls! Mara, let's go! Come on, girls, let's go! Come on, Chica! What a good girl. What a good girl. Mara, let's go! Come on, young lady. Good girl. I see. Oh boy. Oh boy.
See their teeth, they're made for eating. You can see it in there. They're made for eating branches and hard brush and eating a very low protein, high fiber diet. We don't ever teach them tricks just to teach them a trick, but in order to check their teeth, it's good to be able to handle them a little bit. We don't go inside with them, but we do it from the outside.
Elephants can be really, really excellent patients. They're very intelligent, they enjoy interacting with us, and we use positive reinforcement training with our elephants, meaning they choose to participate in their own health care, and they're rewarded for that. They're never punished. And so, consequently, it's actually quite easy for me to provide veterinary care for such an intelligent species. They're very easy to work with. They voluntarily will allow me to draw blood, take x-rays, work on their feet. Even more invasive things like collecting a small biopsy, things like that. They have learned that, we're not here to punish or harm them in any way, so they're actually really good patients.
But not all of Dr. Guy's patients are as cooperative as the elephants.
It can definitely be dangerous being around dangerous exotic animals, dangerous wild animals in captivity or free-ranging for anybody, including an owner of an animal, but certainly for the veterinarian. And so again, it takes somebody like myself who's had specialized training to know how to safely treat these animals, but there's always a potential for, somebody to get hurt.
And although Ed feels that captive exotics are no longer the predators they would be in the wild, even he has no doubt they remain potentially deadly.
Predators know that they're predators. They don't know why, maybe, that they're focused on vulnerable things, but they do. Somebody with crutches, somebody in a wheelchair, somebody who's lagging behind, they know, even though they don't have to, it's just part of their nature to stalk and maybe hunt.
And while many owners of exotic pets do provide for all their needs, caring for such unusual animals proves too difficult for many, and they often arrive at sanctuaries with a host of health issues.
We have right now the second oldest African elephant in the country living here. It's almost like a retirement home in some ways, especially for elephants. They're getting old. They have arthritis before they get here. Sometimes they have foot problems, toe problems, infections, or bone problems. And so you just want to give them as many good years as you can.
In a sanctuary situation, you rarely see, young, healthy animals in need of placement. They are oftentimes the product of almost what I would call a puppy mill for tigers, where they're just breeding and breeding and breeding, sometimes for photo shoots and things like that, with no regard for what happens to them after that function is complete, when the tiger is too big to handle or too big to use in public contact or films. A lot of times they're viewed as disposable, and most of them are unhealthy. They'll come to us with all sorts of issues, vision problems, crooked legs, arthritis, early kidney disease is very common. And some of those conditions are genetic. They're congenital problems that are passed on from generation to generation.
For many animal advocates, freedom is the ultimate goal. But once an animal is already in captivity, options are limited.
We do what we can, but we can't give them what they should have, and that's their total freedom. Nothing would make us happier than to release these guys to where they should be. But the fact is, they would not be able to do it. They wouldn't have a herd, they wouldn't know what to do, and they'd probably die within a few weeks or less. Okay, we gotta go. We gotta go. You can't eat this whole bucket. Our happiest times are when we see them up on the hill like this, grazing on fresh green grass. When you have a sanctuary, you live for moments where the animals are doing something that they would be doing in the wild. So if they're in a mud hole, if they're grazing, if they're pushing on a tree, if they're tearing branches off, those are all kind of rewarding times for us. But it's not a substitute for the wild.
While Ed may be able to provide the illusion of freedom to the animals in his care, he's very aware that true freedom is something they'll never know.
If any of these animals could go free, if all of them could go free, we would load them up tomorrow and take them home, take them back and let them go. And I think it's a responsibility for us to tell people the truth about captivity, at least our point of view. And if we don't win the argument, that's okay. We're not going to beat anybody over the head. But I think if you take a step back and look at captivity, it hasn't worked. It's bad for individuals. It's not helping species. So it's time to change the model. Go to the woods, go to the creek, turn over some rocks, look at the animals, teach your children respect for nature, just basic respect for nature. I think that's the starting point. And if we can't turn it around, we can't turn it around, but let's not make tigers and bears and elephants live in enclosures for the rest of their life, generation after generation after generation, for really no reason.
Humans have had a close relationship with animals for thousands of years. Scientists agree the domestic dog has been a trusted pet for around 15,000 years. And cats became part of the household from 10,000 years ago. And now it's estimated there are at least 600 million pet cats in the world. Exotic pets have also been kept for thousands of years. It's well documented that the Egyptians kept baboons as pets, and exotic animals kept in the home feature in many ancient texts. In modern times, the keeping of exotic pets has increased. A staggering statistic is that there are more tigers in the US alone than there are in the wild. Animal owners truly believe they are playing a role in preserving the numbers of exotic animals. But on the other side of the debate, there are those who believe it is a cruel practice to keep any animals in captivity. This series explores the issues from both sides, from those who know the dangers, but see the benefits, to others who condemn the keeping of exotic pets. Their stories follow. Standing next to an elephant is an awe-inspiring experience. There's a thrill that comes with being so close to a wild animal, a mix of fear and excitement. No matter how exhilarating it is, there's always an element of danger. Charlie Samut is the founder of Monterey Zoo in Salinas, California. It's because of his experience and incredible way with his animals that working not just so close to, but actually amongst the herd of elephants is even possible.
Christy, Paula, Buffy. There must be a convention going on down there that I wasn't made aware of. Hi, girl. Come on. You ever been in a stampede? This is the first time for everything. Hi, girl. Move up. What's going on here? Not a girl. That's gross. This is Christy. That's Buffy. Buffy was a carnival elephant. Christy was a circus elephant. They just both found retirement homes here. I do have to say, though, from the entertainment industries they came to us very healthy, very sound. very well taken care of. So they weren't what I would consider a rescue by any means. They were just done working in those environments and needed a place to retire.
Had it not been for Charlie, there's no way we would have felt comfortable enough to come so close to these potential lethal heavyweights.
Somebody once said that the day you get elephants, your life changes forever. And they couldn't have been more right. So our entire lives revolve around these elephants. If we're on a boat somewhere in the Bahamas and I get a phone call that one of them is down, we're on a plane home. Doesn't matter, nothing comes before the elephants. They're literally your children. They're very demanding. They're, they are dangerous. When you first get them, you have to move into their lives very carefully. This is Paula, she's our old lady, and it's really kind of funny that she's here right now because she's usually so bashful. What are you doing? Huh?
Charlie started out in law enforcement with no ambition to work with exotic animals.
I was a police officer here in Seaside. We served a warrant one night and arrested somebody, and he had a pet mountain lion in the back in his garage. And long and short of it, I ended up with it. I took it home that night. Stupidest thing I ever did. I threw a mountain lion in the back of a Toyota pickup truck with a camphor shell and took it home with me. I put it in my dog kennel in the backyard. That's where it all started. Hey, what are you doing?
Of course, once you've got a mountain lion, why not also get an African lion? Charlie did, and it would change his life completely. The lion turned out to be an extraordinary animal named Joseph, who led Charlie into a new career working with Joseph and other animals in the film and entertainment industry. Still, he certainly never imagined he would end up owning elephants.
No. Really? How rude. My personality does tend to lend itself to doing well with them. I'm, fairly aggressive, fairly dominant, and they respond well to that. They're very comfortable with that. So we've always done very, very well together. But I gotta tell you, we've had some horrifying days, sad days that, we've lost two, and it's taken weeks to get over. What are you doing? So I guess some could argue that this is probably my favorite place in the world. It's just one of those things where you can't imagine what it's like to have friends like this.
Highly intelligent animals, elephants form deep family bonds and live in tight family groups called a herd. Charlie is part of the Monterey Zoo herd.
Well, I actually do feel like one of them. So as soon as they get to me, they do what they need to do, they say hi, and then I'm just one of them, and then they start doing whatever else around me. The thought of them going out our driveway and us not seeing them again just couldn't happen. I couldn't imagine it.
Elephants are often seen as placid, gentle animals, but there's no doubt they can pose a very serious threat. Charlie's elephants are hand-picked in a measure that helps ensure the safety of his team.
We never brought anything here that we thought was going to be a threat to our staff. We do have one, this one here, who had hurt several people before she came here. She didn't kill anybody, but she dumped a few people, so she took a little more work to be around. So my staff doesn't go in with her if I'm not here. She's just a little pushier, a little typical, if you will. But she's also my smartest. She's my thinker. I saw that. What you doing? Now, here's a good example. These were somebody's pets. They were getting expensive. They were getting to be a lot for them to handle. They didn't really have to get rid of them, but they called and asked one day if we didn't have a better situation for them. And the only answer I had was, we could put them in with the elephants, and if they got along fine. If they didn't, we'd have to turn around and bring them right back. That was, what, 10 years ago? And there are days we come out here and the elephants are resting their trunks on them. Now you're gonna hear a lot of noise probably when the boy comes forward.
The mood changes quickly as there is a sudden commotion from the elephants.
Buffy back. Daddy Buffy. Christy. Easy, that a girl. Buffy back. Back. This is Butch. And he's what we call big. What happened is there was a tractor back there that spooked Butch. He obviously told the girls and they ran running over there to help him. Ah, you big dork. So you see, in a lot of the larger organizations, accrediting organizations, what we're doing right now shouldn't be happening. But where I come from in the entertainment industry, you're never going to remember knowing elephants from looking at them from a barrier in a zoo like you will today. You got to meet them to know them, and you got to know them to want to help save them. And so, hey, there's humans back here.
Charlie has worked with exotics for more than 30 years, and the trust these animals have in him is remarkable. Surely it must take a special sort of person to be so trusted by a herd of elephants.
I do think you have to have the right personality for it. But they're smart, so there is somewhat of a science to it. And if you apply the science, if you learn it and apply it, it works. We don't handle them the way we used to. It's evolved like everything else. It's a far kinder training now than it used to be. But for the most part, yeah, I'd almost say it's somewhat easier than big cats because they're so smart that it removes a lot of the things you have no control of, and you can actually apply a little tiny bit of trust. They're like a horse. You try to get a horse to step on you or to run you over. I had a scene once where I had to have a horse charge into me and knock me down. It took us days to find one that would do it. They just instinctually have no interest in hurting you. But on the other hand, they're like children. You have to be their parent before you can be their friend. So you have to find that balance where they respect you enough to know that they have to listen and they have to behave, but there's a reward for it, you know? And they're smart enough to learn real fast. It works a lot better that way.
Charlie spent years building up his rapport with his elephants, and keeping elephants is a full-time job. In fact, it's a full-time job for several people.
Well, here's the problem. We're working with them all day. They're working, their minds are being kept busy. 24/7, we're working with them. And if you don't, they start pushing you around. And then it gets out of hand. Then you lose control, and that's when they become real dangerous. Butch says, I just want to help. Huh? Big dork. So, again, you can't go to work every day and spend what little time you have left with an elephant. You have to be doing it full time. You have to be doing it professionally for a living to keep them manageable. But on the other hand, do we treat them like pets? I think we treat everything like pets, but we do it professionally.
Spending so much time with his elephants, Charlie is completely at ease with them. But he's always alert to possible dangers.
Now, when they all came running, when they all went running that way towards Butch, and Christy was in the middle of it, I won't lie to you, I had a little concern there. That's a lot of elephant and very little Christy. So I headed that way. But once again, we've never had a bad day. We've never had an incident. They did just what I thought they were going to do. They ran to Butch because they thought he had a problem.
Charlie's closeness to his elephants is as much about enriching their lives as it is about enriching his.
The best mental stimulation they have is us. The second best mental stimulation they have is the other animals. And the third is themselves, the group. So, but they have a lot of things to do here. In the morning, my elephants deliver breakfast to the bed and breakfast. So they go up and they visit with people. Their breakfast baskets have bags of fruit that they get to share with the elephants. So there's the positive. That's why they walk up there with us and they're happy to do it. In the afternoon, people get to come and help us give them baths. And then at night, they go to bed. They get their treats and they go into their barns and they go to bed. So, this elephant is normally so shy, she'd be standing back over there and I don't even try to make her come visit people. I have no idea what she's doing right now. She's obviously a camera hog. Paula, what's this about? Paula and Christy came together. Both came from circus. Christy back. Christy back. And there were some things we've changed. Like in circuses, they're not allowed to touch things with their tusks. Whereas in our environment, it was okay. So it took a while to teach her that this was okay. We're far more lenient than they needed to be in circus. So, if you will, they get away with a lot more. But we just cut it off at a certain point so that we keep the control and we keep enough respect so it's still a safe activity.
There are more than 100 exotic animals at Monterey Zoo, and Charlie claims not to have favorites. Watching him with his elephants, it becomes very obvious that maybe, just maybe, he does.
Some might say they're the flagship of our zoo. A lot of zoos have elephants, but I don't know. Everybody finds their magic in a different animal. Some people adore elephants, but some people would get on a plane and travel here for nothing more than those sloths. It's just wherever you find your magic.
Ethan may only be a child, but he's about to do something many adults wouldn't ever consider. He's about to risk his life. Ethan is at his grandfather's rural property where cattle would not be out of place. But these are not your average cattle. Ethan's grandfather, Dwayne, raises about 40 Watusi cattle on his Utah ranch. Putting a 10-year-old within reach of an animal of this size and temperament is a risk. But for Dwayne and Ethan, it is a calculated risk. Also known as the cattle of kings, an average Watusi weighs around 1,000 pounds, and their horns are the largest and most dramatic of any breed of cattle. That's exactly what makes them one of the most dangerous. Even Dwayne is wary.
I can get a little bit closer, but this cow's getting ready to have a calf, and I know her. I get halfway over there, she's gonna chase me out. That cow there will just take her baby and run. This new baby here, her mother would probably let us go up to her, but they are threatening because they're showing you. When they have a baby, you respect that, okay? You do not play with their babies. We play with one here because we know this cow. I mean, she was bottle raised. These cows here, you know that they're not gonna let you play with their baby. These cattle through the years, because of a lot of times the predators that are in Africa, the hyenas, okay? The mothers have become very, very protective. This little cow behind us, she's showing you, she does not want you to play with her baby. And so as protective as the mothers are, the bulls are really docile. They don't care. You can take that baby, but with the mama, you're not gonna play with it.
So why does Dwayne let his grandson climb into a pen with one of these potentially lethal beasts? It seems a common theme among owners of dangerous animals. Familiarity breeds trust.
This little cow's name is Tina, and she was bottle raised, okay? That's why she's so gentle. My grandson Ethan here, he raised her on a bottle. This is his cow. And she just had a little baby calf just 3 days ago. Do you want to catch the calf, Ethan? Now, you can see the little horns are already starting right here. You can see some real good growth on them as a year old. They'll be a year old. They should be out, you know, anywhere from 8 to 10 inches long and have a base on them, probably like that.
The breed does well in the Utah climate, and it is prized for its good looks, its robust and drought-hardy nature, and for those massive horns.
We started raising these in 1982. We've learned a lot about the Watusi, and you know, actually, a few years ago, we sent semen back to South Africa, where these animals originally come from, to get new bloodlines into a herd over there. We've understood that in Africa, they're after, you know, it's a thing of economics. Great big horns, great big long horns is harder for the animal to travel, to feed. And so in Africa, they're breeding the horns smaller. Yet in America, because we have an abundance of feed, we want our horns bigger.
And Dwayne certainly succeeded in breeding cattle with bigger horns. The world's largest, in fact. Dwayne's bull, Woody, earned him a place in the Guinness Book of Records for the largest horn circumference ever recorded. Woody's left horn far outsized its right-hand counterpart, growing to a massive circumference of 40.5 inches. Although it didn't cause him any pain, it weighed so much that Woody would often rest it on the ground. Dwayne has also managed his herd to maintain the breed's distinctive markings.
If you'll notice the markings on this cow, she'll have this, she'll have the straight red over the back and the white down the sides. This guy will hold still. There are pictures of Watusi cattle on Egyptian walls. They date back 7,000 years, and they have this same design on them. And you won't find any other cattle that's got this design on them unless they've got some Watusi bloodlines in them. In Africa, you'll see a lot of the dark red colors. In the tribes, the kings, they liked the white Watusi. And a white Watusi is very valuable to them.
The herds were seen as a status symbol and played a significant role in tribal life.
In Africa, the more Watusis you own, it's kind of one of those things, I have more than you, or, you know, I have a whole bunch of Watusis, and it's kind of like money in the bank in Africa. The size of the horns are intimidating. I think in Africa, if a hyena come up or a lion came to a Watusi cow, you know, they're going to look at that. They're going to look at their defense first, you know, and I'm sure depending on what would happen over there, you know, but through the years, the Watusis have developed that real protective instinct to their young.
The Watusi's giant horns also help to keep it cool. Hundreds of tiny blood vessels cover the horns close to the surface, allowing heat to escape the body.
Where these cows originate from, they take the heat very well. And in the summertime, they'll slick right off, and they've got kind of an oily skin to them, which again, through the years, they've developed kind of a natural pesticide. You can actually rub them and brush them and smell the oil on your hands. They are a hardy cattle. In the wintertime here, because we have so much cold, we make sure that they have all the feed they want to eat, and we provide shelter for them. They don't have a lot of hair on their ears, and they don't have a lot of long hair like a normal cattle would. But you put fat on them, put some meat on them, and they do better.
The majority of incidents involving cattle occur on ranches and other sites where people are working with livestock. Hundreds of people are injured and 22 killed each year in the U.S. alone. Knowing the risks of accidents and that the cows can be easily provoked, Dwayne is always mindful of the danger.
There is an element of danger. It's the same as any other animal. You take a beef cow, they're going to protect their baby, okay? Some of them are not going to be as aggressive as others, okay? The same as a dog that just had brand new puppies. Some of them are going to let you play with them puppies, and some of them are not. Again, maybe the breed of a puppy or the breed of a different cattle is going to determine how protective they're going to be with their babies. The Watusis, normally you got to remember that they're protective. You know, you notice how long the horns are and how big they are, and yet you'll notice these cows don't use them as like a spear. I've seen so many little tiny sharp horns do so much damage to people, and yet these bigger horns like this, they'll actually, when they want another cow out of the road, or if they want you out of the road, they'll swing it and use it more like a bat.
While Ethan has never been hurt by his cows, Dwayne himself has learned some important lessons the hard way.
I had my knee replaced, and I got too close to a brand new baby, and the mother beat me to the fence. And she hit me, and all she did was she just hit me and turned around and went back to her baby. And that, you know, that's when I learned I can't move that fast. Stay away.
Like any large creature, no matter how familiar you are with the animal, its unpredictability is an ever-present danger.
The thing you always want to remember is know your animals, they're having babies, and they're protective. We have a couple of new babies over here. The one, the mother took it and left. The other one is a new mother, and she doesn't really mind if you're around her baby, but again, you have to know the animals.
It's obvious Dwayne takes great pride in his unusual herd, and he treats his Watusi with just the amount of respect horns like theirs deserve.
One thing to remember, if I run, you run. Yes. Please run slower than I do.
It may come as a surprise to some that the hills on the edge of the Cleveland National Forest, just outside of Alpine, California, are home to lions, tigers, and bears. Bobby Brink is the founder of Lions, Tigers, and Bears, a no-kill, no-breed, no-sell exotic animal sanctuary. The white tiger cub is one of their recent rescues.
Well, I thought I was going to be in the hospitality business. That's what I went to school for. It's funny, God sends you a different direction when you think you know what you're doing.
Bobby began working with exotic animals in 1992 when she took a job with a breeder and exhibitor. She quickly realized that it was not the dream job she had expected.
I met a guy with bears, and he taught me how to take care of bears, and then he would disappear all the time, and if I wouldn't go feed the bears, they wouldn't have food or water, and he'd be gone like weeks at a time. So I followed him one day. I followed him up from South Texas to the Texas-Arkansas border, and what he was doing is he would set up a ring, and they were wrestling bears, so you could pay $1,000 for the man to wrestle the bears, and then all the other men would bet who was going to win. I guess who was going to win, the bear or the man. And then I just, started seeing more and more and more, because it's just amazing some of the places we go, and the way people treat animals, and they'll have no fur from urine, and they're laying in their own urine, and they're drinking their own urine, and they don't see anything wrong. Like, they don't see that they're doing anything wrong. That amazes me.
Lions, Tigers, and Bears was founded in 2002 when Bobby rescued 2 endangered Bengal tigers. Only Bobby's direct intervention and negotiation with the owner saved them.
They were backyard pets. They were housed in a 6x12. No shade, no shelter. You and I couldn't live like that for 5 or 6 years. And the guy was threatening to shoot the animals if the U.S. Fish and Wildlife didn't leave him alone, because he considered them his property. But they worked it out, and he decided that we could take the tigers, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife gave us 30 days. And that's when we built that first small enclosure, because we only had 30 days to get the permits, cross the state lines, build something to house the tigers, and get them here. And that was the start. We like to say here they go from rags to riches, because the animals we take here are usually the ones that nobody else will take. There's no place for them to go, because we work all over the country with the first responders. I probably moved 400 animals, all lions, tigers, bears, cougars, in the last 5 years to different sanctuaries across the country. So we work with a lot of sanctuaries, work with a lot of first responders, a lot of state authorities, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Fish and Game, even private owners, and we don't judge. If you have got an animal and you're in over your head, and you're ready to find that animal a home, and 90% of the time that's what we see happens with private ownership.
Seeing tigers for sale in a Walmart parking lot and at cattle auctions, and seeing big cat cubs used for photo opportunities, Bobby knew she was on the right path.
I went to one place on the East Coast, me and my friend, and the one photo facility had 22 cubs. So they can only use them till they're so big, and then they've got to replace those cubs with more cubs. So where do all the babies go? I believe some of them go to canned hunts, which is small area for people to shoot for a trophy, or they go as backyard pets. They're disposed of. Some of them are probably just killed and buried. There's no federal tracking of these animals. The lucky ones get to come to a legitimate sanctuary where they're not going to be bred, and at least get their dignity back and live out their life.
The majority of animals Bobby now takes care of have been rescued from private owners and even from other sanctuaries. An appointment with the vet is one of their first experiences at their new home.
Most of the animals that we go in and get, they've never had any medical care, no dental. Like the 2 leopards we have right now in the quarantine, we've spent 6 months of medical, and then the female couldn't put any weight on her front feet because she had been declawed all the way around so they could use her for the photo ops. And so she was literally trying to walk on her back feet. So when we went in to do the surgery on her feet, we ended up finding a lump on her abdomen, and it ended up being a mass on her uterus. And so it just seems like one thing after another medically for her. And we're still trying to get her up here with the other cats, and she's been here a year.
And that looks like it's cleared up. So that's usually the best sign.
The white tiger cub also had severe health problems when first rescued, and after weeks in quarantine, her final vet check before going to a new enclosure is a great game.
Now that her lesions are coming back, we can do another fungal culture with that little DTM stuff. Have you seen it? It's like a special auger.
Bobby's 93-acre sanctuary is now home to a variety of rescued animals, and for many of them, the sanctuary was the first time they'd ever seen the sky or felt sunshine. This is the first time the white tiger cub has ever been on grass. But rescuing exotic animals is dangerous work.
Honestly, I think the first few weeks when I worked around these animals, I didn't think they were as dangerous as they are. I think the fear comes in after you experience, a few things. And I think for myself, the danger is when we go into dangerous places and get animals out. Because a lot of times the cages are so dangerous. We can't dart because if they jump, they'll go through the cage. Or people have them housed in their dining room or their garage or their basement. They never really think about getting the animal out. Like there's no way to get a transfer cage down the basement stairs or in their little gates. Our cages don't fit through. Those are the more dangerous circumstances for my staff.
Rather than send her staff into dangerous situations, Bobby often puts herself in the line of fire.
And when I first started working with the animals, I worked free contact inside the cage. I just chose not to get anybody hurt. And a lot of times when you're rescuing animals, we don't even know, these animals' past, how they were raised. It's just better safe than sorry. Because the way we've set up everything here is pretty safe. They work in twos. They'll shift the animal, which means they'll put it in an empty cage, and then the second person goes back and checks all the locks, checks that it's empty, and then they'll go in and clean. And then the same thing, when they go to put them back in the cage, they'll check the locks and then put it back, and then the second person will go back and check the lock. But that doesn't mean that human error can't happen, because if something happens, it would be human error. Somebody will make a mistake. That's why your buddy's so important, because that person has to have your back. These animals could kill you in a second. In a second.
For Bobby, the benefits far outweigh the risk. Sometimes an animal's rehabilitation requires a lot of patience.
Like we had one bear we brought from Ohio, and he was fine as long as you kept him locked up. Like when we brought him in the trailer, all the way across country, we'd open the door and feed him, and he was fine, clean him out, and no problems. And then we brought him here, we always put animal in the quarantine and do all their medical, he was fine. But when we put him out in the habitat and opened the door to let him out, he was scared to death. And he'd just run back and forth and pace. So we would just open the door for 15 minutes, and the next day for an hour, and then, a couple weeks later for half a day, and until the door was just left open. And then finally he would touch the dirt, because he'd never touched dirt before. And then finally he would go out, in and out, make sure his little safety place was still there. Now he uses the whole habitat.
Bobby's priority is always the welfare of the animal. But how is her sanctuary any different to a zoo?
I think one of the biggest questions we get here is, why don't you give the animals to the zoo? And I think we do something totally different than a zoo, or two totally different organizations, but a lot of people don't realize these animals originated as surplus animals from the zoos, from the breeding programs, and that's how they got out into the private sector.
Bobby has strong views on the breeding and keeping of captive animals, views that have been established through many years of experience and first-hand knowledge.
There's approximately 220 AZA zoos in our country, and that's who holds the SSP plan, the Species Survival Plan, in our country. So supposedly this is the legitimate breeding that's going on in our country. That's 220 zoos breeding. It's a lot. And you know, these are not animals that can go back in the wild, so there's really not much conservation value. The breeding is for the animals to stay in captivity. You can't put a lion or a tiger or a bear back out. They're going to walk right up to you for food. And I don't think a lot of people realize that these animals are not being put back out in the wild. There is no proven plan to put them back that's working. And a lot of them, they don't know how to be a tiger. I've brought bears in here that are scared to death of space. You know, it took us 6 months to get the white tiger to walk out in the open space because she had never been out of a 10 by 10 and she was used for nothing other than breeding. So when she came here and there's the green grass and the pool, and she was afraid of the waterfall. So it just, a lot of TLC, a lot of time, and you know, now she'll use the whole habitat, but it took a long time. You know, one of the most important things we can give our animals is dirt. You know, it's like the difference of standing on a tile floor all day versus standing on carpet all day. There's a huge difference, and it makes a huge difference in arthritis and how their joints feel, and especially when it's cold.
Seeing distressed and mistreated animals takes an emotional toll. And Bobby also struggles with the idea that even the sanctuary she offers isn't ideal.
It's just a glamorized prison. That's what it is. You and I wouldn't want to live in there. I mean, it's beautiful, but you wouldn't want to stay in there for life. You know, when I first started working around the animals, I really didn't see anything wrong with the way they were housed and, you know, people having them as pets. And I think it just grows on you. Like myself, I've been, you know, working around these animals almost every single day since 1990, and it's really obvious they don't belong in a cage.
So part of Bobby's goal is to ensure that the animals live as closely as possible to how they would in the wild.
They don't make good pets. I think it's selfish. You know, and that's one thing that I've questioned myself about. You know, am I being selfish by, you know, wanting to have the animals? And I had to like get in check and make sure that there's a reason for every animal to be here. You know, just like the little bobcat that we took in Diego. If he could have went back out in the wild, that would have been the best thing for him. But unfortunately, he can't go back out in the wild, so he needs a place to live out his life.
Rescued grizzly bear Albert suffered from malnutrition that caused permanent neurological problems. And not all of the rescues turn out well.
They've destroyed part of his life. You know, the MRI shows he has no pain, but he still has to really think and rock back and forth to get up, and then he has to really think, you know, his brain has to think where he's putting his paws to walk. Of all the animals I have moved, I had to euthanize one lion, and that was very heartbreaking because it was just a big, beautiful lion, and he was literally dragging his back legs, you know, to the point where he was open wounds, you know, from he could not move his back legs at all. That was hard, and it was really hard because he was in with two females. So not only did we have to euthanize him, but then we had to move the females out of their home. That was hard.
Bobby will continue to provide safe and enriching environments for abused and neglected animals already in captivity, leaving future generations to continue to ponder the question of finding a better solution.
I always tell my students and my interns, they're the ones, the younger generation, they're going to make the decision. Do we work on saving the wild tigers in the wild? Because we only have about 3,000 tigers left in the wild, and it would be really nice to keep the ones that we have in the wild protected. Or do we continue to breed these animals for nothing more than to live in a cage? It will go to that generation, and again, they'll make that decision. But these animals, they live 20 years. So, you know, I figure I can do this a good 20, 30 more years. And, you know, hopefully there'll be some more laws in place to protect the animals, and there won't be as many animals in need of sanctuary. I mean, that would be ideal.